Hi guys, I'm Shmee, hello and welcome back to the channel where today I am back with my friend 458 Destroyer, who has upgraded both the garage and the collection quite a lot since my last visit out here. In fact, this is the new location. I came out a year and a half ago and went out for a drive in his LaFerrari, the former DDE Tire Slayer and a Lexus LFA on some snowy roads, but had the most amazing time. Well, here in the collection now, we have the likes of a Carrera GT, we have a Ferrari F40, plenty of other Ferraris, but some cars making big power. Over 2,000 horsepower in the Nth Moto Viper, 2,300 horsepower in the Sheepy Performante, 1,800 horsepower in the rear-driven Sheepy STO. There's a Sissio Performance GTR R35 making 2,600 horsepower, plus the JDM cars, the line of R34s, 33, 32, including two cars that were previously owned by Paul Walker, in fact. This is a collection that's really pretty epic. Let's go for a little look around, then we're going to be picking one of these extremely powerful cars to take out for a little drive. Not many of the cars in here are particularly standard, as you're going to learn as we walk around, but just have a look at this new garage that 458 Destroyer has built with the hexagonal lighting up above, with the epoxy floor, with all of the space for a very wide variety of cars, from the Italians all the way through to the JDM. This side is actually epic. Standing here, you have no idea how cool this array of cars actually is. We need to go all the way through some new additions and things, but let's start on this side, because if you like your GTRs, that's a pretty good place to begin. Well, we actually begin with a Top Secret Supra, which is a totally different story. Top Secret became famous for putting a V12 into a Supra instead of the regular setup. This is a pretty iconic car, but to come straight through, R33, R34, this is a V-Spec with some Z-Tune components. This is 458 Destroyer's basically daily car, the R34 S-Tune. It's so confusing to learn all of the different things with the R34s. You have the Z-Tune, R-Tune, S-Tune, M-Tune, V-Spec, normal cars, the iconic Bayside blue colour, of course. But these two, both the R34 and the R32 next to it, actually used to belong to the late Paul Walker. These were his personal cars, which are now part of 458 Destroyer's collection, which is absolutely epic, to be honest. There are also many more GTRs not here. R-Tune, Z-Tune, plenty of others that will arrive at some point in the future to join this collection. It's going to be one of the best collections of those in the entire world. Continuing over on this side, quick pause from the GTRs for a moment. This is one of the new Acura or Honda NSX Type S's. We saw this when it was revealed during Car Week at Quail. But yeah, bright orange, looking amazing. Kind of interested to find out a bit more about that, to be honest. These two stand out, the pair of cars that we have here, both R35 GTRs, but these are actually the T-Specs. They only made 100 of them, very rare. This is a midnight purple. It's super dark, but it's a nod back to the midnight purple of the famous R34 GTRs, but those are effectively two delivery mileage out of the 100 that they made in total. This is your 2,600 horsepower Sissio Performance R35. Think about that for a moment. 2,600 horsepower. Mind is blown at what that would be like. This is right up my street. LFA Nürburgring edition. One of the 50 Nürburgring editions, 50 out of the 500 cars in total, were this more hardcore spec with the fixed wing at the rear, the extra aero at the front, a slightly stiffer setup, a little bit more power as well. You might remember I drove a regular LFA that was here with 458 Destroyer back then. He actually had two in the collection. Those have departed in favour of the Nur, which is mega. This is another car I absolutely love, the Porsche Carrera GT. Obviously this car has a wrap on it, navy blue, with the satin black parts. It's got your V10 manual gearbox, pop off the Targa roof panels. What is not to love about that? Here we've got the Nth Moto Viper, 2,500 horsepower or so. It's hard to get my head around that. Manual, rear driven, 2,500 horsepower. That sounds terrifying. Now, normally here would be the 720S, that's off at the moment with a friend, hence his RS7 is in that space. Then we have the two cars from Sheepy Race. So the Performante with 2,300 horsepower twin turbo upgrade, obviously making that power, but still with the four-wheel drive system. And the benefit of that is that unlike this thing, it's not quite so terrifying. I think, from what I've heard, you can kind of get in here and just drive it a little bit, whereas that, you definitely would need to have your wits about you, looking menacing in the full satin black on the STO, it has to be said. But both of these cars with mad twin turbo upgrades. In fact, come around towards the back, you can have a quick sneak peek and just see into some of the mods and what we've got going on back here, the full complete new pieces over the top and the sheepy graphics and logos over on the Performante. Yeah, much easier to see through here, straight through the back of the new top end of the engine, direct from Sheepy Race, and everything they have done with this wild thing. But let's squeeze back over this way, talk about the Ferraris, obviously close to my heart, quite a Ferrari guy, and in fact, this LaFerrari was one of the coolest drives I've ever had. Some amazing roads around here, and this car in Rosso Fuoco, just stunning. So, so cool. You probably saw the other day driving the car up in Toronto with Young Steels. LaFerraris, every time I experience one, I get more and more attached to them. Speciale, this was part of the collection back at the time, the white with the black stripes. SF90 Spider has arrived since. This actually has stealth PPF, so it's not satin black, and it gives this really strange look, partially satin, partially gloss. Rosso Fuoco again on the 599 GTO. How cool is that? One of 599, but something I've never seen before. Check this out. It's painted gloss Rosso Fuoco with a satin grey stripe. That's painted, that's lacquered. That's not vinyled over the top or something. So that means they've had to go from the gloss lacquer to the satin lacquer and make it seamless. I don't think that's done very often. That's really quite crazy when you think about it. If we skip back on down this way though, after the LaFerrari is where we have the 488 Challenge, taking part in the Challenge Race Series. I got to drive one of these at Donington Park in the UK. Unbelievably cool. Ferrari F40, straight pipe on that F40. It says enough, doesn't it? Just going to be mega. And a very recent arrival, the, again, Rosso Fuoco 812 GTS, all in a room, armed with racing sims, some pictures around the walls, plenty of memorabilia and other stuff I love. As you can see just over there, all the different Ferrari things that are gifted with the cars, and even the Toomey luggage that comes with the LFA, for example. What a cool garage, just to talk about that for a moment. All of the space, obviously planning for the future as well in 458 Destroyer's collection. But we need to run around and go and pick something to head out with. Probably, I think I can actually say this, pretty much any of these heavily modified cars would make for the most powerful car I have ever driven. The most powerful car prior to now that I've ever driven is possibly my Zenvo, or maybe one of the Koenigsegg's. 1500 horsepower, Bugatti of course, 1600 horsepower Bugatti. So, yeah, records are here to be broken. When it comes to which car to drive, I was thinking about maybe driving the 2600 horsepower R35. I don't think I've ever driven a massively, massively, massively powerful R35. I was also thinking about one of the crazy Lambos, the two twin turbocharged Huracans, because 2,300 horsepower in a Performante, or probably even more sketchy, 1,800 horsepower in the rear-driven STO, would be quite the experience. But there is a high-powered car here that I've never actually previously, I think, featured on the move on the channel ever. So it's about time we head out with the Viper, the Nth Moto 2,500 horsepower Dodge Viper, ACR on complete steroids. But there's more to this than perhaps meets the eye, and I want to open up the car a little bit to show you. So the whole hood, the bonnet, pivots up towards the front. You open it from the outside just here, give a pull of that. Come and have a look underneath this carbon fiber piece. Although you can't see too much, you do have the billet top end from Nth Moto, some massive turbos bolted on to the 8.4 litre V10. It all goes through a manual gearbox to the rear wheels, which is a little bit ridiculous. Obviously the carbon fiber pieces, you can see the exposed carbon on the underside of that, and then you also have this rather magnificent cross brace, the X running over the whole top of it. But that's only part of the story. That gets you a lot of power, but it doesn't get you all of the power. Come and have a look back here. Beneath this massive wing that we have, pop open at the trunk, and inside, check this out, a NOS tank. That gets you your additional 300 horsepower or so when you've got that adding to it. And again, carbon fiber trunk as well. All of these pieces are carbon fiber. And the massive wing, as I mentioned, this wing is gigantic, an enormous thing. So, it's Viper time. Let me go and get the front closed back down. We're going to take this out. I think I'm going to ride in the passenger seat to begin with because I need to get my bearings around this just a little bit before finding out what the full level of crazy is like when you drive 2,500 horsepower's worth of Viper. So let's get it started. Let's do this. Right, in here, this is not so normal. Sequential shifter with a big red button on the top. But let me just turn on the power, then turn on the ignition. It will run the fuel pumps. So we'll get that started first. Let that roll for just a second. And then wait for it, wait for it. Okay, it's ready to be started. Let's press the button. Okay, that's pretty crazy. Time to step in. All right, here we go, into the Viper. Let's get ready for this. On board the Viper, the car that started its life as a Viper GTS, borrowed some ACR parts, and then had everything completely dialed up to the max. And I can tell you right now, it is brutal. One or two little experiences of what this amount of power is like, and my word. At the moment, running down at just over 1,500 horsepower or so, but with plenty of different configurations, because it's all about traction and basically cutting the power through cutting the fuel pump effectively. But just cruising along in 4th gear at the moment. It's calm, it's comfortable, it's almost too easy. Should we drop down some gears and see what it starts to feel like a little bit? Just, gosh, just down even in 2nd gear. The sounds as well, obviously, with the exhaust tailpipes. I don't know how to articulate this. That feeling, it's so frantic. I mean, this is equivalent power to a Chiron Supersport, for example, but it's a different level of aggression. It's just, poof, go. My word. One thing that's pretty apparent with this is that it's a car for the drag strip. The way that it just takes off and launches like that, and it's effectively calculating many times a second what the traction state is like and limiting power through fuel delivery effectively through the fuel pump. But just to be in here, cruising along right now, obviously letting it cool down a touch because of the temps that this kind of thing get to when you push on, and the way also the TAC completely lights up upon power delivery going on inside there. This thing is just wild beyond words. It's hard really to explain it. If you're driving it, you're going to be out having fun. That was running something in the region of 1,800 horsepower. I can't really explain that feeling. It feels risky, it feels dangerous, it feels wild, it feels like it's not like a Chiron where you just accelerate a little bit and it goes and nothing to worry about. It's a completely different thing. It's an adrenaline rush, gets your heart racing. My heart is absolutely pounding and I'm just riding in the passenger seat. That feeling of acceleration, how quickly it pulls. I'm genuinely speechless. Under normal driving, upshifting at about 2,000 RPM up through the gears, but you can hear from the sounds that it's very much about drag racing, about the speed it can achieve. It sounds like it means business even just going through the gears. Pops and explosions from the side exhausts on shifts. But then of course you can tell that this is a gearbox and a setup completely for drag racing. The whines and the noises are pretty cool. And actually the scenery around here is awesome as well. is time then for me to take the hot seat, which I'm a little bit nervous about, but let's step out and we'll see how this goes. Gosh, that sound outside, because the exhaust is literally right there. Oh, okay. Sit in here then. Take just a second for this. Definitely want to get acclimatized, get comfortable, make sure I know what I'm doing before we go too wild with it. 5-speed sequential, that's going to take a little bit of getting used to. Stop signs, not exactly the most ideal thing in the world. Okay, on the move, this is where we go up into second gear. Gosh, this feels ludicrously raw. This is taking me some learning. You need to be on the throttle and very aggressive with the upshift to make sure you can get it up, and then to downshift, you can't be touching the throttle pedal. God, the snaps are mad. Into second gear. This is where, of course, it is loud, really loud. Back into third, back into fourth. Okay, learning this, getting a little bit used to it. You don't need to use the clutch pedal. You've got a clutch pedal, obviously you do when coming to a stop. Just crawling along, getting a small little bit of familiarity with it. First time trying a bit of a gentle acceleration then, so drop it down to second gear. Burbling away, let's try this. Whoa! So I'm back in second gear again, which means it is time to try oh my gosh, the look on my face must be just one of fear, absolutely terrified by what I'm driving. When it gets into the boost, this is actually really quite a challenge to learn. There's so much more to it, whether you are clutching in or what you're doing, and how quick you need to be with the shifter, and it's genuinely difficult. I've been lucky to drive all sorts of different cars, all sorts of different gearboxes, but this takes some learning. And the other thing that takes some learning is that the display in front of me goes up to 6,500 RPM or so, but the red line is actually at 8,500 RPM. It's way beyond what I'm looking at. So I'm just trying to get a feel for this, because obviously while you're holding it back, it's not actually released. It's still in the change, and it's not with the rings slotting back in. So yeah, we'll wait just a moment before giving this a go. In second gear then, wow. Okay, that felt so much cooler holding on to it. Back into fourth gear. Oh, holy smokes. I am barely using what this car has available, but it's terrifying. It's genuinely scary. Of all of the things I've ever driven, this must be the scariest. Wow! 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 Okay, I'm starting to learn, but I might call it quits there, because this is intense. This is really, really intense. The car returns back to base. That sound is utterly silly. What a cool place though, looking around here. The cars and the experience of this. Look how low it is to the ground. The sound. Oh yes, you can drive all the way around the back. That's the fun advantage of a space like this, with the cars staggered through the centre, different sections. It's such a deep grumble. and under the hex lighting. I genuinely don't know what to say. This is just not a car you jump in and can drive. Like, I've got a lot of experience behind the wheel of cars, but this is something you need to learn specifically what the car is after. As I got it right on my last set of shifting, it's unbelievably rewarding. It's unbelievably rewarding. But there was one previous time in my automotive life where I felt something was beyond my comfort zone, and that was driving in a twin-turbo Huracan GT3 at the Dubai Autodrome, and that amount of power and downforce needed a professional racing driver. This needs experience, it needs time, and 458 Destroyer has spent quite a bit of time learning how to drive these cars. But that is not a car I would ever let any of my friends drive without the training to drive it properly, because it's so extreme, it's so just overwhelming. And to get the shifting right and to get everything right, yeah, I probably sound like a complete idiot because you think, yeah, it's 2,500 horsepower, I can drive that, but it's not. It's not like a Chiron, and it makes you realize how 1,600 horsepower in a Chiron or equivalent Koenigseggs, etc., are so well done in the sense of a customer can just jump in and drive that. A customer can't just jump in and drive this. This is, you get the point. If you've been watching my videos for a while, you can probably tell from the way I'm saying this that that's a different experience. That is such a different experience. I'm glad I drove it. I'm glad I went out in it. The most powerful car I've driven. Just my head needs some time to calibrate for this. It's like going passenger in the Valkyrie AMR Pro. Just a different world. Yeah, could have jumped out in a Carrera GT. Been lucky to drive a few before. LaFerrari, for example. But do you know what? The Nth Moto Viper was an experience and a half. An absolute experience and a half. I tell you what though, what a cool garage. 458 Destroyer's new base HQ collection, new additions. To think that the last time I came, so little of this was here. The LaFerrari, the Speciale, maybe one or two of the R34s. Obviously a few cars have departed, but so many new arrivals as well. Oh, goodness me. Goodness me. That was fun. That was really fun. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Do go check out 458 Destroyer's page if you'd like to see more of these and the other imminent arrivals. But today, I just need to go and sit down, have something to eat, something to drink, get myself back on the ground. That was insane. That's it for now, though. Thanks again, and I'll see you very soon. Cheers.